Hey, welcome back to another episode of Nelson's Underground. I am one of your hosts, Bella, and we also have with us our other hosts, Gabe and Ellie. You guys want to say hi?
Hello.
Hello.
And today, we are going to be going under the surface with Nelson University Workstudies, which they both are. I am not.
Yep.
We've discussed this.
Yeah, this is a very little bit of a special episode. Last week we went over Bella and her role, so now we're going to go over Ellie and Mai's roles here at the school. And so, Ellie, I'm curious, just to start us out for the audience, what is a work study here on campus?
Okay, so fun fact, I am also in intermedia and I'm actually doing my mini doc on work studies. I actually know this answer. It's a program by the federal government where you have to meet specific requirements, but if you meet those requirements, you basically are eligible to be part of the program, and it just means that you have a minimum wage job, and it's under often different areas of the school. Usually it's professors, but there are some other areas that have work studies. I know a work study that's in IT, stuff like that.
Yep. Now, I obviously work for our Lord and Dictator.
Oh, now you're going to
Price.
call him out?
Yeah. But so I would imagine my work study job is very different from yours. So
Yeah.
Do you want to describe what yours is like on an average weekly basis? What's kind of the...
So I'm a work study actually for the head of the English department, Dr. Blair.
Shout out.
Shout out. I love her. She's very sweet. But yeah, I'm kind of a TA in a sense. So my job often revolves around just inputting attendance. She'll have me make copies for her different classes. Sometimes it involves helping her organize different schedules, planning different things out, sending out emails to different students if they have late assignments or if they've missed one too many classes. But I also do actually this semester, I run the English Instagram for the school.
Okay.
So I do have to come up with my own ideas, but I also just follow what Dr. Blair asks me to post, as well as another English professor, Dr. Amy George. So they basically just say, hey, we have a seminar happening in a couple of weeks. Can you make some graphics for that, post it on the Instagram, make sure that students know it's happening, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So some of the graphics that you guys might have seen in chapel for the writing contest or the writer seminar, I made those. So it's pretty cool. But yeah.
A single mom who works 2 jobs.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No kids.
No kids. She's not a single mom, y'all, but she does work various jobs on this campus.
That may be true. But yeah. People who know you, Gabe, they do know your role. But for those who
As a little minion, as a little slave.
A slave master.
That's
Slave
crazy.
master. You're the master of the slaves?
Yes.
So you're Isaac's master?
Whoa.
Whoa, wait.
Yeah. No, with Price, it's a little different because instead of taking attendance or doing anything more TA related, a lot of it is more helping the students outside of the classroom. So checking out equipment to them, making sure all of the equipment is in top shape for them. Also planning stuff of where the program's going to go. Ultimately it is Price and Fenton who mostly do that, but there have been times when me and Isaac have been able to have input of what if we did this? What if we did this? For example, we pitched to him having a photography class, and he was very open to it just because of how much we were seeing during campus days of students asking for, they were like, oh, I do photography at my church, or, oh, I really like taking pictures. And I was like, Price, why don't we have a photography program? And he's like, that's a good idea. We'll look into that.
Right.
Oh.
And then me and Isaac have talked about it, but this was more just a me thing of we also try to go out of our way to set all of the students up for success as far as making sure that all of the stuff that they will be using is set up in a way that they can easily be understood. So for example, now obviously this isn't perfect, but setting up Premiere ahead of time, making sure everything's working. We typically will try to go and double check all of the equipment in the lab or in the edit suite, just working with all of the different people and trying to make sure everything's working for them versus what you do, which is more almost TA adjacent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hey, we can confirm he's pretty good at his job.
Yeah, he's helped us a lot this semester. So thanks, Gabe. Thanks
Yeah.
thanks for serving our school. Ellie too. Thank you.
Oh.
So Ellie, what's a good part about being a work study?
I think one thing, I mean, a big thing for me is just the fact that it's on campus because I don't have a car. That severely limits, how I get a job. It's kind of what Bella was saying last week as well. A provider's also an on-campus job. But yeah, like that's a big plus. I don't have to worry about getting a ride anywhere. I can just walk, to the offices and there we go. I'm at work. I think more of a, like, I guess I say awesome thing, is that I do kind of get a rapport with, of course, with the professor that I work with, like that I work directly under. But I'm also like in the offices a lot. So I just will walk by all of my professors as well as other professors that I've never been like under their classes. And then they get to know who I am, even if it's just as Dr. Blair's work study, they still get to kind of know my face. And then sometimes we'll just talk, or if I have nothing else to do at work, but I still have to kind of be clocked in for a certain amount of hours. I'll have conversations with them if they're not busy. And then I can also talk to the other work studies that are back there. It's essentially like I get to know kind of more a behind the scenes aspect of how the professors do their jobs. Like obviously you have them teaching classes, but then you don't necessarily know how they're structuring those classes or how much work it takes to do that or how much work it takes to make sure that like grades are put in on time and stuff like that. But yeah, it's mostly just I get to kind of get to know professors on a deeper level. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. What, being able to know the professors a little bit better, what's like maybe an experience you've had where you've been like, that's something no other student could have as a work study, like interacting with, or can you think of one?
Honestly, I can think of a couple. They might seem small, but to me they're kind of important. Where it'll just be things like, my boss knows my birthday, so she'll get me like a little card, or she'll just be like, hey, I want to give you a gift card, but I don't really know what you like. Just tell me what you want. Do you want like Amazon? Do you want Target? And it's just like I guess it's cool that I have a relationship with her where she'll remember that first of all, and then also that that she values me not just as like an employee, but also just as a person. She'll be like, I want to recognize, I don't know, your work, and she, I guess, values that enough to even think of getting me like a gift. Same goes for like holidays and stuff. Like usually it'll be either a little card with like a chocolate or something. But yeah, it's cool. I'm like, oh, my birthday, yay!
Mm-hmm. It's always nice.
I remember the one time you came into the room, you're like, she got me a breakfast burrito.
Yeah, that's another thing. With stuff like breakout chapels, I can't usually go to them since I'm not actually English. I will help her set up occasionally. And then a lot of times at the end, I'll also help her tear down if I have the time. And that usually involves, if there's extra snacks, I get the extra snacks if I want them.
That sounds good.
Okay, well, what about you, Gabe? What is, I guess, like a positive experience that you've had as a work study?
For working for Ice Price, the Pharaoh,
Oh,
Lord Sith.
Almost all of my positive experiences have to do with Price, so he's going to love this section. Right away, when I first became a work study last semester, he pulled me aside and we sat in the PCR and learned everything we could about the rig that the film students used, how to build it.
Okay.
We even tweaked it a few times, trying to just make it a little bit better than how we initially thought. It could be set up, as well as learning a bunch of camera settings, like the difference between normal or Cine EI, just stuff like that, where I've got almost one-on-one hands-on learning with Price. Yeah, a lot of it is just getting to interact with him on a level of, he almost gets to mentor me, even if it's just as small as I just get to sit in the PCR and he's just watching a video about how to do something that he wants to do in the fall, or maybe a new class that he's thinking about, and he'll just be talking about all the cool things we can do, and that sparks conversations about other sort of learning opportunities that I know most students aren't going to get this opportunity, but I have this almost this gateway to probably the most experienced person in the field on this campus, which is really, really cool.
That is awesome.
Well, what's
We
been
can
one
both
of the
answer.
more challenging parts of being a work study?
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
You can go first.
The people, especially with managing equipment.
Yeah.
The people returning it on time, returning it properly, making sure it's stored properly, just stuff like that, as well as just people maybe overstepping a little bit. It gets very irritating when the job is to me and Isaac's main position is to maintain equipment at all times, and so when people are not respectful of that, it can get very, very irritating very quickly. And so that type of people interaction is not particularly great. I'm not going to give any specific stories, but just that sort of thing in general, especially because
I can think of a story.
I how do I put this? I joke about coming across as the mean and evil one, but in all actuality, I don't like being the mean one. However, unfortunately,
You have to be.
I have to be a lot of the times.
No one
is
wants to be the bad
because-
cop.
No, yeah, because we need that equipment. We need it taken care of. We need it and we need to know where it is at all times because we don't want stuff lost or broken or stuff like that.
Right. No, that's very fair. For me, I don't get as much people interaction, at least not with students. Just, I don't know, because of the nature of my work study job. It's more just sitting in the office and on my computer doing things. Honestly, one of the kind of, I guess, draws of being a work study is the fact that the pay is minimum wage.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
minimum wage.
And in case y'all aren't from Texas, how much?
$7.25 an hour.
Yeah. So
Not,
it's
very
great.
livable.
But the experience.
Yeah, no, it's the fact the cons don't outweigh the pros for me currently, at least, because I do have to do some grading sometimes. It's never with like papers,
Oh.
and I'm not gonna, because this is FERPA as well, so I'm not gonna go into detail, but sometimes I'll just be like,
Why?
we have Grammarly for a reason. No, honestly, the bigger thing is actually just when they don't try, like when it's very obvious that they're not trying. And so I look at it and I'm like, I have to like give you a 0 because this you're supposed to summarize a text in a paragraph, and you
you
used
did
one
not.
sentence, and it
Yeah.
was George went to the bus stop one day.
Ugh.
You know? And I'm just like, do you want to pass this
What
class?
cracks me up is we're in college, dude.
That's
this
what-
is
that's
supposed
kind
to
of-
be college level
That's
work.
kind of what I mean. It's more of like, I'm like, this might have flown in second grade.
Yeah.
You're not in second grade.
So your
Outside this
frustration
kind
is
of-
people's stupidity. And your frustration is also people's stupidity,
Not-
but in different ways.
Yeah,
fonts.
maybe not necessarily.
No, not
stupidity.
stupidity.
If it
but-
like when genuine mistakes happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try not to get too
Yeah.
upset about it.
I think our biggest thing is lack of effort and
Yeah.
responsibility.
No, that
That's
sucks.
lack of effort and responsibility. Like with you, and when I had texted you, like, hey, you need to bring the equipment back, and you went, oh.
Well,
I'm on
I
my
brought
way.
it up actually because I forgot.
Sorry.
I got the email and I was like, wait.
When you like were bringing the equipment back and I was counting down, that was just for fun.
Yeah.
However, other students have ignored text
A
messages.
whole freaking week. Bro.
Yeah, have gone a whole week without bringing it back, and that's where it's like, okay, this is not. You're taking responsibility, and you're like 5 minutes late, or even a day late, because
Yeah.
just stuff happens.
Yeah.
This is all right. You've been contacted. You're ignoring us. You're not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long answer to the question.
No, that's okay. Besides that, would you guys, obviously you kind of outlined the pros and the cons, but would you recommend to anybody, to incoming students coming on campus, if they want to be a work study, would that be a good idea? Would that be a good opportunity for them?
I think it would depend on who you're work studying for.
Mm-hmm.
You, when you're work study for price, are kind of expected to be
You're working-
borderline the best of the best.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly be like pushing yourself and sharpening your skills at all times, because if they start to see other people are better than you, you're going to start losing your authority and job and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to constantly maintain that. And so if you're someone who doesn't want to be constantly working at a job that pays you $7.25,
Yeah.
not for price.
No.
That's not the position for you.
Yeah. No.
But for some other professors, sure. I think it would really depend.
Yeah, I kind of agree, especially in terms of the pay, and also in terms of eligibility. Like, not every student is eligible for it. So you have to meet those. I don't remember every specific requirement, but
Parents
you
have to be
meet.
poor.
Basically.
But I have a question, because I don't know if I met the eligibility requirements, but I was asked to be a work study last year.
Yeah, so what happens is you get asked, you have to go to financial aid, or you can also check on your FAFSA, whatever that form is. And it will typically be like work study eligibility amount. And that's how much you're eligible for. Or you can just go talk to financial aid and they can look at it for you because they know. Some students just aren't eligible. For example, my work study Isaac is actually not eligible, but Price figured out a workaround with him. You can ask them more about that. But if you're just not eligible, you just can't be. And that's just that's it.
So what about you, Gabe? Do you have a funny story with Ice Price, Sith Lord Pharaoh?
Yeah, so there's been a lot. I'm trying to think of a specific long form story I can't think of, but I can tell you about a lot of the interactions that me and Isaac have. There is this door in between the studio and the PCR, and most of the time it is unlocked. 90% of the time we leave it unlocked. For some reason one day it got locked. So we're carrying stuff back and forth between the studio and the PCR, and I go to open the door and I grab the handle and I put my full body weight into it because I think that door is just going to fly open. And I smack myself against the door and bounce off and just laid there for a little bit. And then Isaac
bounced off. You're like, huh.
And then Isaac just came up and starts laughing at me because naturally that's what you do.
Of course.
And then not 3 minutes later, he goes to open the door, puts his full body weight into it, hits the door, and goes backwards just like me.
Like he didn't learn.
Please tell me you stood there and laughed at him.
Yes, of course I did. It was. That's also when we were like, I'm so glad Price isn't here, although he's gonna hear this now because we were like, he would look at us and go, I've made a mistake in my work studies.
You'd be like, all right, you're fired.
Honestly, like you guys, I think are the most not compatible. That's not what I meant to say. Most competent of the DMA students.
I mean, that's the point. That's kind of what he said. Yeah.
You too, Ellie. Though you're not DMA or English, you're a worship.
Correct.
Arts
Yeah.
major.
Yeah. Ellie, have you thought of a funny story yet?
So there was one time where I was trying to get what's it called? I was trying to get grading done for a couple of different reading logs, and also I was supposed to put in attendance after that. But I actually don't even know if I ever told her this because she wasn't in the office at the time, my boss. So it was just kind of it's funny. I guess it might be funny to others, and it's like I made a mistake. Okay, so basically I was grading different things. So I was grading some of the reading logs. She had given me a sticky note list of stuff to do. That's what she does when she's not in the office. And I finished that, and I went to move on to attendance. And she has a couple of different classes that she teaches. So I have the different rosters for each one, and I'm supposed to go into Blackboard under my work study account, click the classes, go to quickly attendance, and then just put in the names that she has marked on the paper list on the physical list. And so I did that. I thought I did it correctly, right? I'm like, cool. This person was present. This person was absent. Oh, this person was tardy. I'm not supposed to mark that. I just thought about it in my head. And then just went through the list, whatever. And then it turns out that I had done, because I was like, oh man, I have a lot to catch up on because I'm looking at one side of the paper. Like, oh, I haven't put this in. And I realized I had done the entire month of January, and I was supposed to be putting in, March.
Oh.
And I just repeated so I had to go through every single.
That sucks.
I was like, man, this looks familiar, but at the same time,
something's off.
I've done it so much that it's whatever. It's
You're just on autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot basically. And then I looked back and I was like,
well.
And I had to go through all of her classes, delete all of the duplicates, and then go back in again and put in the right.
But at least you caught it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was like, oh.
Yippee.
I can't read. But anyways, yeah. Not as funny as running into a door.
Yeah. Twice.
Okay, well, not you twice. Yeah. But yes.
Well, thank you guys for being the interviewees of this episode. This was fun. How to turn tables. It's my turn. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
I mean, we have no choice.
Yeah.
You can check out all of our future episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and any other podcast platform.
Brought to you by the Three Latinas.